talk about a couple of things that I feel get left out of the aspect of being a man, which is what it's this idea of these intangible forces in the human spirit that can't be measured in a lab or can't be discussed or shared through, lipid panels or testing your testosterone or supplements or vitamins or anything related to something outside of yourself, externalizing what really is internal, right? It is what makes you who you are. It's every fiber of your being. It's what drives you or doesn't drive you. And you got to keep in mind, if you're the guy that feels that you've been dealt with a bad hand, you're weak, you're feeble, you got soft bones, you're tiny, you're ugly. These are all things people don't realize. This is nature's way, harsh way, of course, right, of punishing you and telling you need to do something about your circumstances. Yes, you weren't blessed with the best genetics or the best body or the best face or the best anything, but the idea of making yourself into something else, into transforming yourself, that is the very definition of being a man, which is finding those little gems and making them into something, sharpening yourself, sculpting yourself into something worthy of being called art. And that is the pursuit. And I think ultimately that is nature's very, very kind way of telling us we need to change course. We need to do something about our circumstances, and we need to not accept them for what they are. And here's another thing that you can kind of tap into. This is part of the intangibles of the human spirit, which is what? The ancestral sort of dialogue and pull, if you will, where you do certain things and then you realize like, oh man, this has been encoded, written into my DNA. In my case, it would be the grandfather that was a merchant, that was essentially a pirate, that was in the ocean, that was, you know, slinging things that probably weren't that legal, in between some of the legalities, right? The gray area, the sort of, the guy that was willing to put it on the line and potentially go to prison in another country so that, he could earn his meal. This is, and this is a time where borders were not so linear. And there was a little bit of that edge, right? Where guys could be a little bit rebellious and rambunctious and not be punished for it indefinitely. But that's part of it, right? You think to yourself, okay, you look back and think, what did it take for me to get to where I am, right? All the struggle, all the violence, all the difficulties it took for me to get to where I am, and for me to just kind of limp over and play dead, it seems frivolous, it seems childish, it seems petulant. And so I implore you to kind of look into your past and see what it is that got you to where you are, and then you could realize, well, wait a minute, I owe it to the people that came before me to make something of myself, if nothing else. And you got to keep in mind, I mean, this is the other thing too, is you got to feel like things are going to be going in your favor. It's very much, and even if they don't, you continue to push forward because of the fact that you feel eventually it'll be my time. Put me in, coach. That feeling, that will come. But you got to be able to back it up with some type of work, some type of hard-earned stripes. And this is where the whole concept of destiny also comes in, right? Destiny of geography, of where you are. You could have been anywhere in the world, and instead you are where you are. And that's a big part of it as well, is to utilize the space, the geography in which you are to the most, maximize that part as much as you can. That's a big part of it. And also just having utopic dreams, right? Creating from that sort of ether. In my case, I would like to create as much beauty as possible because I just feel like that is the godly thing to do without necessarily being religious. But the idea is there's so much ugliness in the world. Let me try to create some type of beauty, right? Let me curate and taste make that into the world, right? Make that a reality. And that's a pursuit that I'm willing to toil at indefinitely if I need to. And look, this is the most important part about the intangibles of the human spirit, which is what? Everything is already in you. There is no supplement or bedtime routine or journaling scheme that's gonna whip you up into a frenzy. Everything is already inside you. You just got to figure out how to get it out. And and that is the thing. You have to be a glutton for punishment. You have to be able to face failure and adversity head on, and you got to be willing to mess up and insane amount of times. But that's the pursuit. And to be honest with you, like there's any guy that tries to shirk at discomfort or failure is really missing the point of being a man. That if anything is worth everything, right? I'll trade it all for the intangibles, for the immaterial lessons that I've learned, for the character resume, the building that comes with messing up and finding out, troubleshooting, and finding new ways to do things and saying, you know what, this wasn't for me, but the next thing will be. And doing that over and over, constant reiterations of myself, evolving to the point where I look back and I think to myself, all the things that helped me fortify my character. And this is the thing, is you can't just say you did it one time and that's it. You have to constantly prove to yourself that you're worthy of whatever it is that you're pursuing, because doubt seeps in. There is leakage, and you have to always remind yourself, okay, I'm capable of doing this. It's like training, right? You don't just train one time and say, hey, I've trained before. No, you train every day, and every day you remind your body, we're going to put ourselves through the ringer. We're going to punish ourselves again. And you do this day in and day out, or sometimes week in and week out. And you do this for years and years. And perhaps you don't see, the benefits of it, but then over time you do, right? It compounds on itself. It's the same thing with life as a man, is that you're in the gauntlet every day. And no one's going to tell you to do it. It really is up to you. And if you decide to not do that, then you're in for some misfortune. You are going to be in for some troubling times. And so you have to really tell yourself that there's no other way, right? This is the defining feature, right? This isn't a bug. This is part of the system of being a man. And these intangibles, if you will, are what will drive you forward. And you got to be able to tap into them as often as possible, for you to get the most juice and the nectar out of life. Okay. Anyhow, I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.